I just don't want narratives to spin up and take control where like crypto is all about like luxury and exclusivity when it's actually the opposite. Like NFT this, NFT that, like $1 million this, $1 million that, celebrity this, celebrity that. That's not the point. Crypto should be boring. Crypto should be for every single person. It shouldn't be special.
It's not sexy, right? Welcome back to the Smart Nonsense Podcast, talking about entrepreneurship, self-development, challenging norms. A guest episode today, Pop. Those are rare.
It's been a while. I think
Lapham.
Ian's the only person we allow on the podcast anymore. The only one.
No guests.
He's our source. No guests, minus our DGen Ian. He teaches us all about crypto, as he always does. This time, Belky, what the hell did we talk about?
The space is
We
different.
just did it.
It's a bit different now, all right? When we first talked to Ian, like, NFTs, I feel like were invented. I think they were invented. Now we spend most of our time talking more about, like, what's actually to come from this. What are we actually going to see take place? Beyond just the luxury stuff, the sexy stuff, the celebrity stuff.
Yeah, we're beyond that.
Where are we actually going? You know what I'm still thinking about, Pop? So all of this is built on Amazon Web Services?
I wanted to ask more about that.
I couldn't derail a second time. I got a big derailer in there.
No, derails are good. We need more derailing.
I want to know after this conversation, who is building the decentralized servers?
It's Amazon, dude. Everyone just taps in.
That doesn't seem right.
Compete with them.
Well, that's what I'm thinking. Spin up the servers after you listen to this episode. Sell it to Amazon.
Dude.
Then you're in Web3.
That's not how this works. Yeah, well, I think the cool thing here is I can't speak. I tried to learn more about what's actually going on under the hood with all of this. Some of it we talked about after the pod. I don't think we're technically allowed to talk about, but just interesting talking about. It all started from this one article, which we'll link multiple times. But here, my first impressions of Web3, it comes from someone who's actually technically qualified, unlike Henry or me, to talk about this stuff. And they're like, hey, this shit's really just Web 2 with like a little bit more open source stuff. And I'm like, that's kind of my impression. I'm like, yo, Ian, what's your take? Is this just fake Web3? What is this? And he gave us the nice little balance of, well, I won't spoil it. I guess we kind of get into it in the start, but it's a mix. And we talk about the pros and the cons. And then we talk about a lot of other shit, like DAOs, if they're important.
I think the good news is
things.
You're gonna be able to the good news. You're gonna be able to compete with your dad now. You got a little bit more knowledge in your toolkit to compete with your DGen dad. I'm not gonna tell him, Pop. That's for the outro.
Oh, is this? Yeah, I don't really know how to do these anymore. But I'm kind of curious what your big takeaway is. When do I get to ask you that?
Ian talking about music was interesting to me. People being able to weigh in on an artist's projects or DAOs for that matter.
I'm still confused. I guess this is technically supposed to go after the episode. All right, how about this? Maybe we put it at the end. Oh, I like this. All right, well, here's the episode with Ian Lapham. You remind me of did you have what's it called in high school? Like ever hair dyeing shit for tournaments or anything crazy?
Oh, absolutely. People would do the blonde. That's my camera here. Yeah, people would do the blonde all the time for playoffs. That was it.
Yeah, but you guys you won states, right? But you didn't dye your hair that year.
I never did it. No, we had like a Belichick approach, like no nonsense. We're just here to win, and it worked. And
you're like the repressed schoolgirl. What do you call that? Religious girl. That now you go full DGen right after.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you still playing hockey? I'm gonna be there in a couple months. I'm trying to rip some puck.
I have not played hockey since 2020. It's just hard in New York, especially if you're a goalie. Like, what am I gonna do? Bring my pads on the subway? Like, it's just like pain. I could play I
No,
could skate out though.
Oh. Yeah, I don't think I ever saw you. Well, maybe once, but yeah, I don't know. It's weird. They don't have little storage lockers or whatever, I guess. But I'll have to figure that out because I'll
Yeah,
be
I mean,
downtown.
if you look, I'm sure there's people play, especially in Brooklyn, probably, or if you go over to Jersey side, but probably in Brooklyn. I've never really looked, to be honest.
Are you Brooklyn still, or are you Manhattan?
No, I live in Soho now.
God. Oh, yo, all right. So we'll intro after,
The
but
cryptographer.
hold on, really quick. What the?
Sorry, I was in the audience.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out what link I sent you guys. I'm like, are you watching me right now? What's happening? Ian, what's the deal with fucking the foam padding? Are you shooting pods over there? Are you trying to compete with Smart Nonsense?
This room is awful. So I have 2 bedrooms in my apartment. But this one's really echoey and weird, or it was. So I put these all up, and then I have a bunch of other things around. And now it's in rugs, and now it's sounds normal. But before it was just echoey and shitty.
So you're telling me whatever's happening in crypto, you have a 2-bedroom apartment, and one of those bedrooms is your podcast studio and/or Zoom studio.
Pretty much. I got this mic.
In Soho.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Belky, I'm convinced. I'm done with this business shit. I'm officially
I
out.
know.
I don't know. You don't have the money to buy an NFT, but maybe he's learning how to code. He's our techie now. So
Yeah, watch out, Ian. I'm
All
coming
right.
for you.
I'll keep an eye out.
Front end. Webflow.
he's taking your playbook from a year ago when we were pretty much in the same situation.
Where's my JavaScript book? Where
You
is
should
it?
learn it, baby.
Waiting for Uniswap.
You should learn
I
it.
was worried because I was hitting you up, Ian, when Miami, what the fuck was it called? Art Basel was going on. And I'm like, yo, you going to be down here? And you're like, I would and I want to, but they'd probably fire me if I went on another crazy adventure.
Yeah. That
Do you work?
all the time. Yeah, I'm all the time. No, that one was an important decision for my personal health. The last time I went to Miami was really fun. It was a good event, but it reached its limits of being productive. And if I went down there again, bad things would happen, and it couldn't have happened. I was traveling a lot. If I went down there, it just wouldn't have ended well.
Is that because of the length of these events? It's just a week of debauchery?
Yeah, it depends. You can make it what you want to make it. I want to hear about your experience in Art Basel as well, because
I don't think it's gonna compare. That's the problem.
Yeah, I mean you can go down to these events, and they happen everywhere. Of course, in Miami, there were some in New York at the end of last year. There's going to be NFT LA. South by Southwest is always doing it. But you can go to these things, and especially the ones that are conference based. You can go to the conferences, you can see the talks, you can talk to people about work and stuff. But at the same time, there's just events and parties every night. And it's just all free, and it goes till 6 a.m, and it's 8 days in a row. So it's you can choose. Do you want to just go talk about software, or do you want to just stay up till 7 every single night in Miami? You can do either one. And they're
Pick
pretty.
B.
It is binary, right?
It's definitely.
You're either talking about software or you're doing something.
It's
till 7.
binary. You can't. I mean, I'm under the belief that actually the best networking happens in that latter category. You make the best relationships when you're just being a degenerate for the most part. So
It reveals something about you,
exactly,
like the deep down core.
You see people's true sides, not when they're all buttoned up, and then you can make friends that way. So I mean, they're definitely fun. There's definitely a bunch of smart people, celebrating company launches, NFTs, art, cool things, but you can't do it all the time. You got to take breaks.
I do. We'll circle back to the article, a lot of other NFTs and music and Twitter and everything else. But while we're on the thread, I remember when I did go to, I guess, Art Basel. I don't know. Is Basel French? What is that word?
I think so.
But whatever it is. I went there, and there's one client that we're working with now who I actually messaged you, Ian, before. Mm-hmm. He works with WindRanger, who works for BitDAO, effectively. Yep. Like they're their marketing arm or research and development. He's on the marketing side. And so I went there, no clue what was going on, but I realized, I'm like, oh, I saw some person like taking photos with people and exchanging contact info. And I'm like, oh, this is networking. Like, I forgot this was a fucking thing because I only started business like pretty much in the pandemic. So I was like, what is this? Why are you exchanging phone numbers and like taking photos of each other and stuff? What you saying, like the full DGen 7 in the morning, that's when the best connections come. What actually happens like when you meet someone? I don't know if you meet people and you're like, oh, this is a cool project going on, or what happens when you're hanging out with them?
Yeah. So I think like the best experiences, in my opinion, it's usually when you meet people that you've been working with on the internet. That's specifically kind of what I'm talking about. Because in this space and in general, in 2022, you can do a lot of work with people on the internet without ever meeting them, right? Like you meet people on Twitter, you meet people on Telegram, Discords, what have you, and you work on projects. But then when you go to these events, everyone gets, congregated in the same space, and you can finally meet these people in person. And that's kind of what I'm talking about. It's like the people you've chatted with or worked on things with, or like you kind of know them through the internet. And then when you meet them in person, you can kind of forget, like, obviously you wanted to and discuss things you're working on and like cool stuff like that. But at the same time, like, it's just nice to have fun with these people and like get to know each other personally. So then when you go like retreat back to your caves, like, there's like a real person on the end of that. And like that's kind of what I'm talking about. It solidifies these connections you make on the internet. And then I think it's like the step of becoming like real friends, is what, when you do I don't know, go have fun, like go have a good time. So like, that's kind of what I'm talking about. And you just like, there's so many talented people working on cool things. You just, in the same space, it's just a good place to meet people. But like, people don't really have this like false air of like trying to pitch you on something. Like if you go to a conference and walk around, everyone's like a little too buttoned up, I think, and they won't actually tell you what's really going on and what they really think about things. But if you're at a party or something, or like cocktail hours, people will more likely just tell you the truth and like tell you what's real. So like, I think you just get more raw opinions. You can see like what people actually think, and then you get to make friends with these people.
Yeah,
but is it common then to be working on in the space? Is it common to be working on many side projects or different projects?
Yeah.
Are you kind of uncommon here that like you work for a company, you do front end development?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right there. It's like, especially when you go to these things. I mean, of course, there's people that are like me that like, I do one thing. Like I work at Uniswap. I'm interested in many things. I keep tabs on it, but like my thing is Uniswap, and like that's what I do. I'm not like running other projects, like maybe small ones, or like chipping in to give advice, or advising, or like taking a look at things. But like I'm not fully engaged in anything but Uniswap. So there's definitely people like me, but there's a lot of people. If we want to talk about Web3 and crypto specifically, there's like a new type of employee who is like 20 or 30% invested in a few things at once. And specifically what that looks like, especially right now, is like, say you're just good at NFTs and like, how to market them, what's required to build them, like how to get designers in touch with developers. Like I know a few people like that, and they'll be working on a couple NFT projects at once. So it's not like they have one thing that's like they're a founder and this is my company. It's more like, here are a couple things I'm engaged in. And there's like a new additional role that's popping up that's more just like a general like community person who's good at like grouping people together who are trying to work on certain things. So like, if you know Cooper Turley, like he's a good example. Like he's working on a lot of things at once, but he's very knowledgeable of the space and very knowledgeable of like where to find good talent, and kind of grouping these people together. He's a valuable person to work with because he can get things rolling. So like, And I think especially at these events, I think it tends to select towards the end of the spectrum. If you're going to like the parties or staying out late and doing those things, I think you just tend to find more of those people. It's probably correlated with the fact that those people are usually younger. You know, there's a lot of correlating factors here. But like, there's a lot of like 20 to 25-year-olds who are doing 5 things at once.
Yeah, when I was there, the craziest thing was this, like, well, again, these are the BitDAO people, and one of them in the group was semi-responsible for the Constitution DAO, and he was pitching other ideas, and he's like, "Oh, well, I'm in New York, and I want to create like the coolest NFT nightclub where to get in you have to show an NFT and it's super exclusive." And I'm like, "Well, that's a fucking crazy idea." He's like, "Yeah, just go to this person and pitch it." And he's like, "Oh, that's a cool idea." And then you just put it out to, I guess, everyone that would have, I don't know if it's the Bitcoin or what the actual coin is called, or whoever owns a stake in BitDAO then can vote on whether or not it goes forward. And that's actually what they hire us for videos. They're like, "Oh, we want to market these ideas when people go to vote on it." So that's...
Oh, no way. I didn't know you were doing videos for them. Yeah, BitDAO is great. But yeah, that's exactly what I'm talking about. Like, someone will have an idea and there's just a lot of talented people around. It can be like, "Hey, let's do this." Like, maybe I won't necessarily be the one implementing it, but if someone wants to run with it, go for it. And I'll like give you my thoughts. Like, that's exactly it. That would also be really sweet. I have mixed opinions on like gated access through tokens. I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. I think it's fun, but like, we can't place too much importance on it as like something we're seriously doing in the space. Like, there's a lot of more important things to be doing, but at the end of the day, it's still kind of cool. And if you could have like a nightclub and cool parties, like, I'm into that.
Right. There's that use case, and there's like actual important stuff that can be done. I think in the more important realm, it goes back to the article of, okay, this is the confusing part for me, where say Devin Finzer with OpenSea or Coinbase or whatever large centralized company there is, it seems like they're the go-to in the market for Web3 in this supposedly decentralized space. So that's been the mindfuck for me. This article kind of secured it. It's like, okay, why are we still centralized if we're decentralized? Had a bunch of examples. What is it? Moxie Marlinspike, I guess they're the person's blog post. And so Ian, your take originally, this was at like, I don't know, 3 a.m. I forget when it was, but we got like a nice rant right back, and you're like, "Yo, this might be pod worthy." So that's where this whole adventure came about.
I get very nervous if I wake up to a chain of messages from either of you two. Very nervous.
So I think that had a lot, but in the underlying premise, you seem to semi-agree with, where it's this mix of like, we're always going to have centralized, I guess, companies, because that's efficient to work with. But under that, sort of the base protocol, having that being decentralized and open is the kind of Web3 breakthrough that we have. Is that semi-accurate, or what was your whole take on that?
Yeah, so there's a couple things to break down here. For context, this started, you sent me this article, and I actually think it's a great article. People should read it, because we don't talk about these things enough, where they get like swept under the rug. And if they don't get addressed, it's easy to point fingers at the whole crypto initiative, and like, it should be broken down. But yeah, when you sent that, I was like, oh, so many thoughts here. I was ranting. I'm like, okay, this is better explained through a conversation. So yeah, to rephrase, like, the general attack on crypto or NFTs or both, it's kind of the same attack, is that even though these decentralized networks are growing and they're improving and people are innovating on them, so let's say Ethereum, even Bitcoin, new layer ones like Solana, whatever network you're talking about, I'd say for the most part, some of them are sufficiently decentralized, Ethereum, Bitcoin, right? But as more money is funneling into this space, as more entrepreneurs are working on services to build on top of blockchain, as more attention gets focused on it, it's starting to trend where there are a lot of trade-offs users are making that weren't necessarily originally intended. So like, specifically, Coinbase is a good example. Some would argue that like Coinbase isn't a great way to buy, sell, and hold, Web3 assets because it's in a centralized company.
Hodl.
Yeah, hodl or hodl. One of the two. They just say, you should be using Ethereum directly. You should be like swapping on other exchanges and doing these things. But that's like the obvious example. And then on more fringe examples is complaints that are commonly made against NFTs. So people will say, all right, all this metadata is on Ethereum. So like the data is stored on Ethereum, but in order for this whole project to work, we're using a bunch of Amazon servers to get the image files. And if Amazon went down, then the images go away, right? So your NFTs become useless. And then the last thing is like a lot of these websites that you use to interact with chains are not open source. So that's why Uniswap, we always open source any interface you ever use, because if you're, connecting to a website, you should be able to know what it's doing. So those are the complaints. And then if you zoom out a little bit at a very high level, what that article was kind of saying is we are trending towards a world where every service or a majority of the services on top of blockchain and Web3 are centralized. So we're losing some of the value for what these things were built for, which is decentralized interaction between humans. And then he proposes some type of alternative future where it's a combination of these centralized services building up, but also keeping some of the original properties that, are built natively into blockchains, like pure decentralization, trustlessness, and like pure ownership of your assets. So I have a bunch of thoughts about this. The first thing is, I don't think centralization is bad per se. The reason is, for someone like me, like I'm a developer, I know a lot about Ethereum, like I understand these things. It's easy for me to navigate this whole space. Like, it's what I do for my job. So it's easy for me to get on the internet, get my wallet set up, get my hardware going, and I can navigate this. I can understand, the majority of what's going on. And like my risk is relatively low compared to the average person, just because I do this all day. So I have this certain, threshold of risk that I'm okay with, and I can navigate that. But the average consumer doesn't do crypto for a job, right? Like the average person in the world, in America, doesn't do this. They're not technical. They don't desire to be technical, maybe to some degree, but not all the way.
This feels targeted.
Yeah, I know.
This feels targeted.
Yeah, but I'm not saying it's bad.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I think we have to recognize that and deal with it. So centralized services are good for allowing people to more easily interact with all this stuff. So that's why like Coinbase is great, because people can use it. They can get introduction to Ethereum, and they can in other assets and chains and networks and services, and it's good. There's a lot of development middleware that makes it easy to use the blockchain. So Infura is one of these companies, and he points that out in that article. Infura is basically a company that is running nodes for the blockchain and providing data about the blockchain, because you have to get data from somewhere. So they make it easy. And the whole point is, I think these services are good because it allows us to continue building, continue innovating on top of crypto and make it easier for people to use. But with that being said, I think the beauty is, the way I see it, in the future, you're going to have a choice or you should have a choice for how decentralized you want your stack to be. So if you're very concerned about privacy, security, or any other factor, and you want to own everything yourself, you should have the option to do that. You should be able to run your own Ethereum node. Your own machine can make these interactions. You can verify everything yourself. It's going to take more technical skill, or maybe you hire someone to do it that you trust. But you have the option to do that. And if you don't care about those things, if you don't necessarily care as much about privacy, if you want high security with low effort, like a Coinbase, for example, you should have that choice too. So I think the future that we want to live in is where you have that choice. I think it's everyone's right to have that choice. And that's kind of my stance, not to get political, but kind of like, I think as policies emerge around this stuff, that is the frame of reference they should use. You should be able to have the choice to do these things. It should never be illegal to access Ethereum from your own machine. And there should be regulations around the centralized services because, those are companies providing services to consumers. Those consumers should be protected, and that makes it better for everyone. So I'm ranting there. There's a lot to break down, but those are my thoughts.
Well, is Uniswap technically centralized, just open source? Or is it, because you're technically a company, right? So how does that?
Yeah, the way Uniswap works and a lot of other companies is our contracts aren't entirely, deployed on the chain, and we don't have control over them. So if you look at the Uniswap protocol, those contracts are on Ethereum. There's no way for a single off-chain party to manipulate them in any way.
Contracts like your work contract with them?
No, like the smart contracts.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
That's why it was targeted, huh?
I'm like, hey, I'm used to contractors in the Philippines, and that's where my mind goes when I hear contract.
Your guys' head, that's your uses of the word. No, I'm talking about the smart contracts that
We're good at those.
are Uniswap.
No.
Those are on the chain, and they can't be shut down, they can't be stopped, and they can't be controlled.
What was, Belky, I'm going to keep you from derailing for a little bit, but what was interesting to us,
ready.
There was the podcast with Naval and Tim Ferriss where we actually got the shout out, which is cool. But he mentioned specifically talking about us was composing and recomposing. I'm not sure if it's related here, but he seemed to make it sound like, say Naval creates some sort of content. I don't know if it's like open source here, and then we can go repurpose that, and he would share in the benefits of it along with us. Like where everyone kind of profits from that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I understood that wrong or like how that would actually work, assuming it's all NFTs, or I got all lost with how that would actually function economically, I guess. I don't know if, do you have an idea of what that would look like with composing and recomposing? Yeah.
I mean, I think there's like two ways to view that. That's awesome. You like mention you guys. I want all the credit because I told you to make Twitters.
It always
so
it circles. You're the composer. We're just the recomposers of Ian's.
No, I'm just kidding. No, but yeah, it's so cool. But I think it's like two ways.
Our entire business is built
exactly
right. It's all well, we don't have many dollars in our bank account right now, but every dollar that we once had was due to you. And those in the future.
That's fantastic. No, you guys are going. I'm just kidding. But I think with composing and recomposing, like there's two ways to look at it. One, it's just like an abstract concept, and I think it's very valid because like in this case, like if you guys recompose like a clip or something or like a piece of content or a piece of audio and add it, just recompose it somehow. So like repackage it and deliver it to people. He benefits because as more people do that, say there's 100 of you guys, it's good for his brand and it's spreading his message, which is a good thing. And then for you guys, it gets you like associated coverage and like starts to build your brand as well. So if you're promoting this kind of content, people start to view you guys in a certain way, and then they believe that you stand for certain things and have certain ideas, and then they'll follow you. So, it's mutually beneficial. But that can also literally work in crypto. It's kind of niche, but like there are some mechanisms where as people resell NFTs, a portion of those sales gets sent back to the original creator. I'm not sure how I feel about these. I think it's an interesting thing, and it's very common. Like, so say I make an NFT and sell it to you, and then you sell it to someone and they keep selling it. I'll always get a portion of those proceeds if I set it up this way. I think that's nice because like I'm the creator, so I should it's kind of like a royalty on my art. And I think that's cool. I don't know if it's great for all situations. I feel like it's context specific on like what the NFT is for. But like the cool thing with crypto is you can literally do that. So that's like recomposing. So like say I have this NFT and I want to, sell it to someone else so they can do things with it. Like, that artist will like get some value there. And then the last thing I'll note is like with NFTs, a common thing you'll see now is NFT projects doing partnerships. So like, to help promote the brand of one NFT launch, an existing project will like partner with them and like do like a combined drop and like, you know, combine the visuals somehow. I think that's cool. I think that's dope. I think that NFTs are like really hyped. I'm not sure it's like exactly like the future. Like it is kind of bringing crypto mainstream, but like I'm not sure if it's the most important thing, but people complain about it a lot. I think it's dope. People are making cool art. People are having fun with it. Like, and that's a good thing.
The socks, you're still regretting the socks, it sounds like, and you're
the socks.
about
I
to
still have. I mean, at this point, I'd rather have the physical sock than the sock. It's just the sock's piece of history. And I'm never getting rid of that sock, and yeah, it's never going away.
That's true.
I'll never sell it. It's
That's
just,
a good
it's mine.
I don't know what fallacy that is, but
The sunk sock.
it ain't right.
the sunk sock fallacy.
It's the sunk sock fallacy.
Belky, I don't know how important this derail is.
Can I ask?
Derail. All right,
Oh,
I wrote.
it's
I wrote.
not the most important. It's about
No,
Ian's
please
life.
derail.
Sure.
It's about Ian's life. It's about all right. It's just I'm so curious. You drive fancy cars now. You've got your Unisocks, the physical ones. And like work-life balance seems fun. You're partying it up and whatnot. I'm so curious what alternative universe John Hancock Ian is doing, and what your counterparts in that space are doing.
That is a
He
great.
studied
If you didn't
astrophysics.
fall down this little rabbit hole, that's right. We're in a parallel universe.
That is a fantastic question.
I don't know. It's like, are you where you thought you would be when we first talked? NFTs were just rolling out.
Yeah, that's fantastic to think about. I think with this whole thing in general, like it's nowhere close to being
It's a
over.
stumper.
Like we're just getting started. Like, you know, crypto is still new, but like I loved every step of the ride. Like and none of it was predicted. Like by me, like I knew what things were important and what things that like I wanted to work on, and that's never changed. It's just like the world's perception of it and adoption of it is what took me by surprise. Like, but the beauty is like I don't necessarily care that much about those things. So like I always knew like what was rewarding. Like I think Uniswap is incredibly important, and working on that is just the best thing, and like that's never changed. But the way the world has kind of adopted this, and like narratives that are being spun up around crypto and then NFTs specifically this last year, like I never saw that coming. Like I didn't know if NFTs would ever be a thing again. Didn't see that coming at all. So like, yeah, there's no way to predict that. The alternative version of me, so like if this stuff never existed, I always kind of wonder about that. I would probably have tried to like get a job at Google or something like that, or like maybe like McKinsey or like a VC fund or something. But honestly, I don't know, because like I went from being like a college student who like was almost like, all right, I'll figure it out later. I just want to like make sure I'm smart. Like not sure exactly what I want to do. And then this happened. So like there was never a point in my brain where I like seriously considered doing anything else. So like I don't know like what would happen. Like it would probably be more boring.
I think we need to put up the 3 side-by-sides we have of you. Like the first one was at your mom's house. I remember. Second one, NFTs hit. You moved into this big empty warehouse. Third one, you're at like 240p on my screen. It looks like you're wearing a blazer or a cardigan.
No, it's work.
And your hair is blonde. Okay.
That's so funny.
The transformation.
Blacked out New York.
Yeah,
It's,
that is funny because
it all
when I
checks
did the OG podcast with you guys, it was like COVID. I was living at my parents, which was not bad. Yeah, and then the warehouse, very cheap rent though. The warehouse looked nice, but it was not in a place. My car got stolen at that apartment, so
Yeah, where is that car?
I have no idea. That's what I wonder about
Oh, no.
most.
You
Like
need
that.
air tags. I just stocked up on air tags hard.
Yeah, I will put one in everything I own. That would.
What do you drive these days?
Well,
Maybe you
it's
can't
New York,
tell
it's
us.
Soho. What are you driving?
Yeah,
to
I
Soho?
don't. Yeah, I never
Oh.
drive New York.
Well, what's funny is we've got kind of like the same come up. If you look
Easy,
at
I'm at my mom's
transformation
house
over
and
this
you're in a
podcast.
van.
But we're playing in Web 1. That's the difference.
Hey, we gotta work
We're
our way up.
hyperlinking.
You're
I am in a van. You are at your mom's.
oh,
We
you're
come
in
back.
a van right now. No way. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I gotta see this.
Yeah, that's my
That's
fan.
sweet.
He's on 240p, so it's hard to tell. But
Yeah.
Ian, I guess with everything in the space, like this hype of NFTs and kind of getting this weird rap, and sometimes like, I don't know, bad rap because it seems like a fatty thing, and then maybe like you said with these NFTs to get into nightclubs, like that's not the real important things being done. It sounds like Uniswap creating this decentralized protocol, or just place where you can trade without big institutions. That's awesome. Is that part of like the real important work being done in the space, or what is like the number one change that you like?
Yeah. I'd say like the way I look at it is like it's not my place to like stack rank everything that's being worked, because while I think there are bad aspects of the whole NFT craze, I still think as a whole it's amazing. Like people are building some awesome projects. Like the art's really cool for some of them, like in my opinion, but like art's subjective, but I think it's cool. People are having fun with it. Like they're making friends on the internet. Like artists are getting paid for the work they're doing that they could never get paid before. Like it's changed a lot of people's lives. I think we're just getting started with a lot of them. A lot of them are visual. I think like music NFTs are going to be a bigger thing. And I'm a big, I've always been interested in the music space. And I think that's like pretty revolutionary. So like, I think NFTs are really good. The aspects that I just don't like about it are, I think like some of these communities are very like standoffish, and they kind of like put certain people on a pedestal if you own a certain NFT. And I just don't like, that's just lame to me. I just think like buying an NFT to be cool is just like, I mean, like people have always done that. Like people buy things.
Ian, you did change your Twitter. You accepted the new hexagon.
Exactly.
I am kind of jealous of that status. Yeah. I don't have one.
I think it's fun, and like I'm all on board with it partially. Like I did that. Like I like my alien friend NFT, so I'm gonna make it my profile picture. It's cool. I think it's when people like, the thing I don't like about it is when people think like that is like the mainstream thing that we've all been waiting for, like just collectible NFTs. Like I don't think that's it. I think it's cool. I think it's fun. But like that can't be, we can't just focus on this mania of like luxury collecting. Like it's cool, it's a part of it, but like it's not the whole point. And I think like, yeah, like the whole DeFi innovation and just Web3 in general, like there's so much more there. And like, I just don't want narratives to spin up and take control where like crypto is all about like luxury and exclusivity when it's actually the opposite. Like crypto is about inclusion, open access, and like this is the opposite type of narrative. So like that's most of what I'm concerned about. Like if you read any newspaper now, it's just NFT this, NFT that, like $1 million this, $1 million that, celebrity this, celebrity that. Like that's not the point. Crypto should be boring. Crypto should be for every single person. It shouldn't be special.
It's not sexy, right?
It shouldn't be. Like that's why. But the last thing I'll say is like, I still like some of these projects and I think they're cool and fun. It's just not the complete story. But like I love NFTs. I have a bunch. Like I think they're sweet.
So the important work, I don't know, for example, and I know we don't want to like stack rank anything, but when we talk about DAOs, I know when I listened to All In podcast, Jason Calacanis was stoked about them, thought that they were the future. To me, it seems weird. Like for example, BitDAO, it's billions of dollars, and I don't know, half the time it seems like 20-year-olds are running what projects to work on with this, and it's kind of freaky, and I don't know how it all works, but how important are DAOs, or is there anything that's particularly more important that you think? No,
I think like DAOs are a major thing, for sure. And I think like it's one of the most interesting things to me. And I think at this point, they're kind of all bleeding into each other. So it's like, I think back in the day, like people would separate like NFTs, DeFi, DAOs, but like at this point, they're kind of just all the same thing. Like there are DAOs that collect NFTs. There are like NFTs used within DeFi. Like DeFi is used underneath all of this stuff. So, I think it's just all blending into one new version of the internet. But DAOs specifically, I think are big and like won't go away. I don't think they're a fad. I think we're just in a phase of like rapid experimentation. Like all these different structures are forming for all these different reasons. And I think that's really cool. I don't think we've necessarily settled on anything that's like super major, like majorly better than the others, but like that's the phase we're in. So like the Constitution DAO thing was awesome, right? Like that's really cool. It was scoped though. It was mostly just like a fundraising project. But like, I thought that was sweet. Like BitDAO is another one. Like they're, contributing to all these different things and like doing really well. There's Pleaser DAO and they collect NFTs only and like they're an NFT DAO. There are tools popping up for DAOs. So like Juicebox is this really cool tool where it's like easy to manage people in your DAO. This new project came out the other day. Let me get the name of this because it was worth mentioning. I gotta find this because people should really check this out.
I see a lot of monitors
Syndicate.
you're looking at.
All right.
I saw left, up,
Yeah.
right.
So
How many monitors are we
just
working
one
with?
ultra wide.
Just one. Oh, ultra wide.
So I found it. It's called Syndicate. Was making investment clubs as DAOs. Long story short, there's all different types of DAOs, all doing different things, and like it's rapid experimentation. There's like some dope ones, and there's some dumb ones, and there's some like
So the biggest breakthrough, because to me, it sounds like the open source, everyone can see it and work on it and just rapidly innovate is I don't know if I'm understanding wrong, but that's the biggest sort of change. But open source seems like it was around for a while. It's just maybe I'm conflating open source and decentralized.
They're definitely related, but one's not required for the other. But I think you're generally right. Like what I just described, all these DAOs doing all these different things, that is possible because Ethereum and these other networks are open for use. So like, if like there's no other mechanism around the world where like you could build all these organizations that are like international and global as fast as this. Like all these DAOs have members from around the world and they're doing all these different things and people are coding on them from around the world. And like, there's just no way to do that like in Web 2. And that's kind of the whole point, right? But like DAOs specifically, I think the cool thing about them is they're giving people concrete ways to interact across the internet. It's like unsure like which ones of those are like necessary, scalable, or even good, but probably some of them are. And it's just a way where people can, interact with each other through the internet in some type of organized way. And like some of them really rely on voting power. Others are just more loose and they call themselves a DAO, but it's just like a dictator. But like, it's just making it easy for people around the world to coordinate. That's like the whole point of any of these networks, right? But like Constitution DAO is a perfect example. Like they don't necessarily know 95% of the contributors that contributed to buy that, but it almost happened, right? And the only reason that was possible is because of the chain. Like I guess you could do the same thing with a Kickstarter, but like it's just harder to work with and you're like more constrained with what you can do, right?
So the big change for Web 3 is that it makes coordination easier on a global scale. Is that the biggest?
I mean, that's in my opinion, that's one of the benefits.
Okay.
Coordination can be achieved in ways that like we couldn't do it before. And there's a lot of other properties like trustlessness, which is related to coordination, but like true ownership, that kind of thing. But like, you can look at Uniswap as an example, right? People around the world are depositing their money into a market making algorithm, and then other people are trading against it. But you don't need to know any of those people. You don't need to care about who they are. You just know that the code is going to do what the code is going to do. So you can, therefore, all of us can coordinate without any friction on top of it. Like we know the code is going to execute the way it executes, so we can trust it. LPs are happy to put their money in. Other people want to do swaps are happy to trade against it. And that's the beauty of it. Like that's an example of coordination. Like there's billions of dollars that have been coordinated into these algorithms, and like millions of people trading against them, and none of these people know each other. It doesn't matter.
Right. I guess still the confusing part for me is why would I, other than just the recognition, I guess when you work on the underlying protocol, like say Uniswap protocol, and my name can be sort of traced back to having worked on it. Mm-hmm. But I don't get any direct financial rewards, like unless I maybe invested in say Ethereum, because it's like, oh, Uniswap runs off of Ethereum, so the price might go up, but there's no like, oh, I contribute so I get money back automatically, because I feel like I've heard that in the past. That was a benefit to all of this.
Yeah, people make that claim a lot. I think that the take is that like using Web3 rewards early users, and that is kind of true. But I think it's slightly different than what you're saying. You're saying more of like from a developer standpoint, like the people who are building these things. But I'll start with the case of users. So like a common thing is like token airdrops. So when a token is made, teams will often decide to airdrop a percentage of those tokens to the early users. And I think that's a good thing, because those users should be rewarded because they helped get the, whatever it may be, the protocol to where it is today. Without the early users, like things would get no traction, they'd get no attention online, maybe like potential investments. So those early users should be rewarded, and they do get rewarded often. So like all these airdrops, like ENS was a big one. SOS was a thing that was originally trying to reward people who trade on OpenSea. But there's, endless amounts. And I think that's a good thing. And that's like part of the take. People say if you use Web3, if you're supporting something early, you'll get rewarded. If you're a developer, I think it's a little bit harder. But developers, I think the beauty is like if you build something important, people will recognize that, and then they'll pay you to do additional work.
Right. Hey, you mentioned SOS, which I think they talked about on My First Million. Was that when they're like OpenSea should be raising money by the users, and then they basically created like the OpenSea token, and people airdropped a bunch.
Tried to snipe them overnight.
They tried to do,
but then it leaked.
Tried to do the rug pull, the brandfire attack. Yeah, I think it's an interesting idea. I just think it's hard to execute because like
right.
OpenSea builds a lot of hardcore tech. And it's harder than most. Like there's so much data that goes into running OpenSea. There's so many users. There's so many processes that have to be in place to make sure people don't get scammed. Like there's so much going on. It's hard to replicate that. I like the concept, I guess. Yeah, it's interesting. It's like, I bet they'll do something with it. It's probably a good thing.
It's interesting. Ian, I know you mentioned music NFTs before. I don't know if you want to touch on it more or any other topics, so we can not get you fired from work and stuff like that. But any other related topics that you wanted to make sure we touched on?
Yeah, I think I'll just plug music NFTs quickly, just because it's like a relatively new thing. I think there's just like I think the reason I like them is because that's where I see a lot of the most creative work. These artists are spending a lot of time, creating these drops and NFTs. And I think the best part is these artists are really thinking about how to reward their users who bought these NFTs in the future. So like they're giving them tickets, they're giving them access to like early music, they're even letting them like vote on decisions that get made as part of albums, and like I just think it's like a really good thing that's happening, and it's like pretty cool to see. So like some good projects is Decent was actually found by do you know the guys working on Decent, like Will Collier and Xander Carlson? They went to Brown with us, and then there's Charlie, a different Charlie and Will also working, but yeah, they're doing cool stuff with music. Like Soundmint is really, really good, and there's plenty of others, Sound.xyz, but like I just think it's dope. So like people should check that out.
Cool. Yeah, I know. I mean, I saw something from Taylor Swift on like TikTok about how music industry sucked and it needed a lot of disruption. So it's good that there's more attention in the space in general, I think.
Absolutely.
I guess final question on my side, Belky. I don't know if you have any other tangents in mind, but last one I had is I don't have a disposable $1,000 to put in anything other than Clipped right now. But if I did, what would you do with it? Would you fucking go crazy with one thing in particular, or would you diversify?
Without it being financial advice, I would.
Without being financial advice, it's a great caveat.
I would, if you were going to do that, I would get some NFTs. I just think it's more fun. Like, at the end of the day, I think you should be excited about what things you're investing in or like these kind of decisions. So like, if you're really stoked on a new protocol, go get the token. But like, I think NFTs are sweet. Like, find some art that you like. I like the Alien Friends. Like, there's a bunch of other ones. That one's just my NFT and my profile picture. But
are you're in it purely because you like that art, or are you curious about like those assets and how they'll move in price?
I think with these NFTs, like, I'm not gonna lie, like there's always an aspect of like speculation involved here. But if I'm gonna speculate on anything, I'm gonna make it something I think is dope.
Right.
Just because,
best
like,
of both worlds.
Yeah, it's almost like buying like a painting that you can carry around everywhere and on the internet. So like, I wear my Alien Friend on my Apple Watch everywhere I go, and I have it all over the internet. So it's kind of like buying something for your house. It's like buying art. Like, you buy art in your house and you only invest, like if you're buying expensive art, you buy art that you generally think will retain its value. And it's the same exact thing here. Just the cool thing is it moves with you around the internet. It's not just on your wall. Right. So like, I think it's a perfect analogy. Like, if you're going to invest in something that's, relatively expensive and it's art based, it should be something that will hold its value unless you just don't care about the money at all. In that case, just buy whatever thing's cool, like, to you. But if you do care slightly about the money, it should be a combination of something that's dope that also retains value. So like, there's NFT projects that achieve that.
Right. It's kind of like if you buy art. Like, I bought Henry framed this for me, some nice travel photos. And It's like, I buy that, but I'm the only one that ever sees it. So it's like, what's the point of that? Versus you buy an NFT and everyone on the internet sees it. It's like,
exactly.
It's a lot better use case.
Exactly. I said the other day, like, the main uses of NFTs right now are luxury and vanity. I don't think it's a good thing, but like, that's what it is. Like, people want to buy luxury assets and they want to show them off. And that's why people are going crazy, because that's so deeply tied into human nature. Like, that's why it's going so viral. It's because like those two traits are like deeply tied into society. And maybe it's not human nature, but it's like societal pressure to obtain luxury and to show other people. Like, that's just like I don't know if that's necessarily a good pursuit, but it is like a common thing that's like baked in our society, and NFTs just playing perfectly to that. So like, that's like the thing I was saying that I don't particularly like about NFTs is like, I'm not sure if that should be our North Star, like, at all. But I think that's why we've seen this happen over the last year. People realize they could do these things. I think it's part of the reason. I still think there's a lot of great artists and a lot of awesome projects doing really cool things. I just think some of them are more focused towards that.
Well, we'll have to look for hexagon shirts or some way to prove it when you're representing the city. But
that will happen. Yeah.
I'm waiting. I don't mean to put you on the spot with anything that may or may not be legal, but any little nuggets from Miami that we can hold on to so we we're more incentivized to get into this. What was the crazy? Was there like? It doesn't have to be a crazy display of like wealth or a crazy party. I don't know what it might be. All we saw is you almost died.
I think
or not died, but yeah.
That was a fun week. I think there was just like a lot of weird celebrities that were randomly involved in crypto, which was just kind of funny. Like Paris Hilton and G-Eazy and Portnoy, and just watching these people.
You saw them?
Oh yeah, and like just watching these people like navigate crypto events was like really interesting.
It's clear that they're not like deep in the world; they're just kind of superficially in it. Is that why it's weird?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's it. For those specific people, I don't know. Maybe they're in it. I don't know.
Turns out they're deeper in it.
They might be.
Paris is like
the
Paris is
anonymous names.
Satoshi.
Yeah, they might be. No, that was just a blender. I've covered it, but I won't be doing that.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll have to wait for the next NFT New York or whatever it might be, because I think Henry will be there this summer too. So we'll have in-person 6-month update of the pod come summer.
We should. We absolutely should.
Awesome.
The next snapshot of Resident D.
Right. You'll have 3 rooms.
Thanks for being here.
I'm stoked, and I can move into one of them. All right.
Yeah,
We'll talk to you.
Yeah.
Thanks, Ian.
See you, Ian. That was a lovely chat. There's feels like Smartlist now.
I know. There's
nice
actually
guy. Nice guy.
What's the there's this Dax Shepard's podcast. I forget what it's called, but they do like a fact check at the end, and they debrief everything. Oh, they do on Smartlist too. But yeah,
we could use a fact checker.
It's nice seeing him go up in the world. He's kind of like us, except we're more circular. He's more hyperbolic. What do you call that?
Exponential.
Exponential. Hey, we'll get there one day. But for now, this is my living room. That's my closet, and here's my underwear.
It's where we all started with Ian.
God, I look terrible. This might be the worst I've ever looked.
What'd you learn, Pop?
Here's what's interesting to me. I'm still trying to figure out, because I was sold this case of everyone gets you get money for contributing something positive to your coin or your network or whatever it is. And so I was confused with Uniswap, the protocol. If I work on that, like, there should be big incentives to work on that, but it's really just street cred. That's all you get. And it's like, if it's so foundational, why don't you get more than street cred? I guess it's the same with Wikipedia.
Well, you do get
Wikipedia is baller, but all you get is street cred.
Don't you get a lot more than street cred? Ian was early. It's effectively a startup. He got a whole bunch of their tokens because he was early, and that's worth a lot. It's like equity.
Oh, I guess if you start it, but like, what's the incentive to contribute now and improve it?
Right. I do know, like you were saying, people do, like in these DAOs, they do pay out proceeds to their biggest participators or contributors. Like serious money, like young Spielberg from the All In podcast, they paid him like $6,000 1 month, 10 grand or something. Young Spielberg, the DAO he was in. So he's in like this music research DAO.
Sounds like a cult.
Yeah, he helped him write a paper, or put together a bunch of research about like what they should do with their DAO's money. And because he was such a big contributor, he just woke up one day and they like airdropped him a bunch of money. And I was like, I don't know.
Hey, know what bothers me? I think it sucks that the end of the podcast, right when we stopped the recording, that was my most eye-opening thing. I'm like, we talk about all these abstract ideas of like, oh, this is what it is. This is how protocols work, all this shit. And it's like, yo, Ian, like, what are you working on? And he's like, oh, go to Sybil.org. And we go to it, and it's like, oh, this is how you vote on what does the Uniswap protocol do with all their money.
Part of that comes from the transformation of Ian. from episode 1 to episode 3, there's only so much he can talk about. It's like
He's getting more
and it's
corporate?
finding those. He's getting more corporate because he has to.
You saw him. He looked like Steve Jobs, just with blonde
I know.
hair. I
So-
came on. I'm like, you're refined. You're no longer a degen. He said he's over those ways.
And then we stop recording and he's smoking his e-cig. That's the same with all guests. When you hit
know, dude.
record, the thing is a different beast. Because you
I
gotta be
think
careful what you say.
It's interesting because
Not that
I
Ian
think-
has to be careful just because you're on the record.
what's nice is there is no record with clipped. You just fucking go for it because we're not corporate. We might be one day. We might get shut down one day and have to censor all these early podcasts. But
It's
hey,
our
I'm gonna
own
fight
Web
to the
2
death.
record.
You can't shut it down. Yeah, when we put the podcast on the blockchain, and then you can never get rid of them. But I think that's it. Like when you're deep in podcasts and all you do is podcasts, it's we let loose always. Like whenever we go on someone's call-in, whenever I did it like once with Landon,
You
it's
don't
just
want
like
us. You want
you
us,
don't
but
want
you
us
don't want us.
because we bring the same energy.
Nothing to lose. Nothing to lose.
I wish I had
We've
something to
lost.
lose, dude. Give me something to lose. That's the goal this week, I guess.
Something to
This
lose
episode is probably going to drop. It might even drop in January still. Who knows? Maybe early February.
This
But,
episode?
Yeah, because I want to push it to the top of the queue.
Good luck, Pop. The queue is fat.
But
Hey,
you can always slot
That was
it in.
lovely, though. I hope people learned a thing or two. I definitely did. But I'm still
All you learned
wondering
was
about
music?
Amazon. No, I spent most of the time thinking about this Amazon Web Services problem. Like, if you saw a blank stare on my face,
And you didn't
I was
ask
thinking
a
about
single
Amazon-
question about it, huh?
I didn't
guess
want
I
to
took over
derail
the
twice.
conversation.
I didn't want to derail twice. This is really
Well-
So I'm sitting here thinking none of this exists without Amazon Web Services at scale. What does Satoshi the purist think about Amazon Web Services?
Did you read the article?
Skimmed.
Yeah, I mean, it's basically that's the fucking point of the article. It's like people don't want to run their own servers and never will. That's like
Yeah,
the
so that was
thesis.
my blank stare the whole time.
It's like, yeah,
I
it's
guess in
supposed
that
to be.
sense it clicked for me. It is just Web 2
Well, it's like
with slightly
Elon
different
Musk.
rules.
Did you hear him on? Was it Lex Friedman or something? I forget what podcast or where I heard it, but Elon Musk is like, yeah. Whenever I go on the internet now, every website's like, hey, accept these cookies. Accept these cookies. You want to decline these cookies or accept these cookies? He's like, I don't give a fuck about the cookies. Just let the cookies exist. Now every time I got to click on the website, then click on the cookies. And someone actually I saw on Twitter, they ran the math in Europe. And it's like, it's eating like 24,000 people days every single day that a cookie exists. Because it takes like a
Fucking
second and so you
cookies.
click on like 5 things a day. It's like, fuck the cookies. People don't care about their privacy as much as we'd like to think. It's just like, centralize it and then make it easy for me. Which is what Uniswap.
Right.
company
Right. I always
that
come back to this
Uniswap
idea
does.
that like Amazon, Apple, and Google, pretty secure. Pretty good about
Right.
privacy.
Right, like my face is so deep in all of this shit. Except
deepest
TikTok. I
pop-
kind of stay away from that because I'm like they're in China and I don't want to give them my real birth dates and stuff like that. But they probably have it, so it doesn't. What matters at the end of the day?
If anyone has it, they do, Pop.
Belky, we gotta talk business after this because you're hearing this now and we're currently in a precarious situation. So you'll have to wait 2 months
Here
though
we
to hear
go.
what that is.
See ya.
Gordon! Oh, it's just me, huh?